Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the passing of the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967, legislation that would transform the country's media landscape. Signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson, the bill was an integral part of his great society. And through the years, public media stations across all 50 states have stayed true to their mission of educating, informing, and inspiring. To mark the occasion, we're honored to welcome two of President Johnson's closest allies in the White House. Joseph Califano, who would go on to serve as Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare in the Carter administration, was LBJ's Special Assistant for Domestic Affairs, a position considered so critical that the New York Times actually called him the Deputy President for Domestic Affairs. And Bill Moyers was President Johnson's Special Assistant and Press Secretary. As we all know, he went on to become a multi-award-winning television journalist at CBS, NBC, and of course, for many illustrious years, right here on PBS. Welcome, gentlemen. It's such an honor to have you guys here.
Good to be here.
Great.
So I like both of you to answer this, but Bill, let me go to you first. Take us back 50 years. What was the need that this bill was trying to address, and why was 1967 the year that it happened?
Well, it happened because it took Joe Califano that much time to get the legislation passed. It was inspired in 1964 by creative thinking about how do we take the many educational television stations around the country, most of them attached to a school board or a university, and turn them into a national service for public television and public radio. LBJ sent me over to the Department of Education. There was one then. In 1964, a few months after he had been catapulted into the White House due to the tragedy of John Kennedy's assassination, I attended my first meeting with a group of educators and some foundation people to say what can happen to turn these educational stations into public broadcasting on a national level. LBJ was really interested. As a senator, he owned a radio and television station in Austin, Texas. The University of Texas wanted to start a public broadcasting nonprofit network. So Bob Schinken was a local conservative Republican who was asked to head that organization, a really great guy. His son, Robert Franken, has written 2 plays about LBJ, Great All the Way and The Great Society. He had to get Johnson's permission for the University of Texas to commission that nonprofit educational public television and radio station. He went to see Johnson. Johnson said, I believe in this. You know, commercial television's never going to be the great teacher of the country. I believe public broadcasting can be. So he was vested when John Gardner came to see us at the White House.
So, Joe, a bill like this wouldn't pass now. Was it a tough sell even back in 67?
Well, LBJ proposed it, focused on the educational capacity. He sent it up. It was passed within 8 months. And remember, within those 8 months, they also had their August vacation and all that stuff. And he signed it in November of 67.
Bipartisan support?
Bipartisan support, all the way.
Wow.
Indeed, he
What's
named
that like, I wonder?
the first chair of this was Milton Eisenhower, Republican, who LBJ named. It was a bipartisan board. I think there's a piece of currency that's very important. There are now over 350 public television stations and 1,000 public broadcasting radio stations. And the people say, oh, the federal government shouldn't spend this money. The federal government puts up about a little over $400 million. Private donations are $2 billion, not counting what the states contribute. The 50 states contribute money. If you can keep that in, there's $6 of private and state money for every dollar of federal money. It is the best deal the federal government ever made. And the one other thing, talk about bipartisanship or division, it's probably the last place in this country. All over the country, all these stations have boards. These boards have Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, libertarians on them. They're community boards. It is the greatest grassroots operation we have in the United States today.
There was a consensus at the time, Rafael, and that LBJ embraced it completely, that commercial television had already been caught in the little lies and fantasies of merchandising, and that the people running commercial television, not bad people, but they were marketing people. They looked out and saw a nation of consumers to whom we had to sell something, not a nation of citizens who could learn something from what we do. So there was a consensus that there needed to be one channel on the spectrum that was free of commercials and commercial values. And that was a powerful, gravitating summons at the moment to the establishment of public broadcasting and public radio.
You know, in the introduction, I said that, that this act was an integral part of LBJ's Great Society. Was I telling the truth? Was it an important part?
Absolutely. Yeah. But people think the Great Society is not just a poverty program. This was an integral part of it, very important. The National Endowments for the Arts and Humanities were an integral part. You know, and education, as Bill said, was very important. Remember what happened to education. We talk about preschool today like it's a new thing. Head Start is the biggest preschool program in history. From Head Start through elementary and secondary education, through the Higher Education Act that gave scholarships, through this, which Bill is right, he did see it as educating the public.
The first big successful program of public broadcasting was Sesame Street, Children's Television Workshop. And one historian has said that all those children who grew up to be today's adults are children of the Great Society. And I think that's true. They were all influenced. Millions of kids were influenced.
Yeah, I mean, you were there at the creation, and you had ideas of what this would become. 50 years later, what is it about public broadcasting that you think did not meet what you were hoping for?
Well, the structure, which had to come into being because of political capital on the Hill, the structure's flawed. I was present when Wilbur Mills, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, most powerful man in the House, because that's where all tax legislation has to come about, came to see, at Johnson's request, came down to the White House. LBJ made an eloquent case for setting aside a dedicated tax on every television set sold in the country. That's the way Britain went. And Britain today, I was thinking as Joe talked, Britain today gets over BBC gets over $6 billion in revenue from a dedicated tax. We have to go out and raise $2 billion, as Joe was saying. So that limited public broadcasting's independence from the very beginning, because once you take funding from the appropriations process, you are understandably affected by the political whims and wishes and wiles of Congress. So there was a built-in absence of independence from the beginning, which Joe or I, the president, couldn't do anything about. Wilbur Mills said, Mr. President, we're never going to appropriate money that we don't control. So just get that in your mind.
And I think it's important to remember what, you know, there have been a couple of attempts really to go after public broadcasting.
Yeah. We're
Richard
living
Nixon,
through one now.
Richard
also.
Nixon, Newt Gingrich, and now we're seeing another one. But in every case, the amazing thing has been Congress ultimately responded to their constituents, thank God, who are millions of people all over the country that said, no, we want it.
Yeah.
We want it.
Red state, blue state, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't make
In
any
the notes
difference.
he made for his memoir, after he left the White House, LBJ said he was proud of this, but he was concerned that it would ultimately be taken over by elites. And the question we have to face today, which I think we can answer, is that there are people who are not elites. I had a letter after I did a series on sixth grade ideas from plumbers out in Utah saying, by day we're plumbers, by night we're philosophers, because of that, of that show. But there is a danger that it becomes too upscale for the people who need the basics to know about democracy. And I worry about the lack of independence checking our instincts to do strong, tough public affairs about the state and fate of democracy.
So, Bill, since I have you here, I have to ask you, you're going to be honored on November 1st by the Friends of 13th and their 50th...
Only because I've lived so long.
the 50th Luncheon Gala. There's an interesting story that I've heard. Back in 1969, I think you were the first honoree or the first speaker at their first gala. And that maybe, I heard, caused you to think about getting into this TV game?
Well, I'd left the White House to come to New York to be publisher of Newsday, the large Long Island suburban paper. But everyone knew I'd been at the White House working on the Great Society legislation, which this man completed so marvelously, and including public broadcasting. So when the Friends of Channel 13, the support organization of volunteers and citizens to back this station, had their first organizing meeting, they asked me to speak. And I made such an eloquent case for public broadcasting, I went home guilty that I wasn't a part of it. No, there were other factors, but I was a friend of Channel 13 and part of the community and family from the very beginning.
Well, you're still a friend of everybody who watches public television now. Thank you so much. I got like 10 other questions, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thanks, Bill, for coming on our show once again. Joe, thank you so much. And thanks for the work you've done all your lives.
You're seeing it from A to Z.
Yeah.